then diagnostic case, final case, like within different compartments, another should have identified if office 1 works in a certain vision, office 2 works in another vision, and then they don't move on the same page, and the result is the books, the textbook books. Then yes, the books are also lengthy, time-consuming, and the delayed revision, that is another issue. And then the central exam system, the book papers come from central boards, so has to be assessment is still into the traditional mindset. So no matter how you change the textbooks, but assessment is still traditional. So with this, I would like to end, and shall I explain the question? Okay, so shall we begin from this side? Any question from A, and then B, and then C? Quickly, one question only.
We have been talking about the problems and solutions of these texts. Why don't we apply these we as learners are learning the same text and are I don't think they are going to
Actually, there's too much noise in the auditorium. I'm not able to hear what she's saying. Can you have silence for 5 minutes? I know you've been patiently listening since morning. 5 more minutes? Yes. Okay, got it. Now there is no permanent solution ever to any problem, because the nature of problem also keeps on evolving, and our solutions keep on evolving as well. That is the major, I think, the bottleneck, because we want to look for solution which is one time and for all contexts. Naturally, we have to take the lead, and in our own capacities we are chipping in, and you guys have to also voice it out, and then collectively we'll be able to change whatever the problems are. But remember, problem keeps on evolving, our solutions have to keep on evolving as well. There will be never one problem and one solution for it to fix, for the centuries to come. Now, section B. What's your name? Okay, Nazia.
CSS or any other special exam or anything. And you said that we don't need teachers, we don't have an internet anymore. So then when we get these two things, then we will see that before coming to university, when there are coming two children. For example, one child is studying from Oxford, and other child is from where he is not properly guided about tennis, only tennis. So when if we are looking forward to it, so how can we stop that their mental condition of their mental capacity are same, and then how can we say that the student who is studying from Oxford, Cambridge, his childhood, but a student which is coming to university and learn properly from here. So then why they are comparable? और secondly ये कि हमारे पास books available हैं, लेकिन जो हमारा course content है, books में हमारा course content है, उस course content को maybe increase होने के साथ I think so कि हमारे आपको नहीं लगता कि हमें essence को बनाना चाहिए, because कि देखिए हमारे यहाँ इस तरह है कि जो private school हैं वहाँ पे एक अच्छा हिसाब दिया जा रहा है, लेकिन जो हमारे यहाँ government school है वहाँ पे ये हिसाब नहीं करवाया जा रहा है. So why when we don't use essence, हम क्यों सीखते हैं?
Okay, Nazia has got a complex thinking, which I really appreciate into her. Like one question has got multiple layers of questions into it, but that is what we require from the university students. So there were a couple of questions. I'll try to respond some of those very briefly. I'll begin with the SNC. I really disagree with this idea. SNC, on the one hand, is कोई चीज़ दूर से बहुत चमकती हुई दिखाई देती है ना, पर हर चीज़ वो सोना नहीं होती, right? So similarly, SNC has got very good dream work, but it will never be able to create equity and equality, because it is a big question mark on the creativity of the learners. We are humans, okay? I mean, I'm just telling you my take, and you may disagree as well, and then the rest of the time, otherwise we could debate. But yes, if you want to know my idea, I totally disagree with that, because I believe that students have to be creative, critical, reflective, and that can never come out of the essence. Now, another question. Why, in spite of having this all drives and educational shift, but still, they're not able to be good learners, good even exam passers, like Saturday and my take on this is, see, till college level we have got central exams, I repeat. We have got the same question given to all. Now all people do not have the same ability to write. Some people are good speakers, some people are, world is moving towards differentiated learning and assessment. It's no more customized plan. हम खाना खाते हैं उसमें भी हम कस्टमाइज चीजें पसंद करते हैं. बर्थडे केक बनवाते हैं वो भी कस्टमाइज होता है. इसका ये फेवरेट कैरेक्टर है, ये अच्छा कलर है. So learning also is like customized, okay? Context to context. और चीजें alignment में नहीं है, and that is where these all problems are coming.
जी,
Rest of the questions I forgot because I'm from
जी सर.
older days and you are from 21st century, but yes.
जी सर.
Yeah. The question was about teachers who will not be needing anymore. That is about the West. In our context,
ठीक है सर.
we have got still, we are still stuck into somewhere in the middle, not being able to move here or there. So we need it. But then in the near future, if we have to step towards 21st century real education, then we have to think about these all questions, because modern contexts are really suffering from these already. So we need to take them on board whenever we make a policy. Okay? Nazia, these were just some of the answers. But yeah, I'll be happy to connect with you and answer more. Last question from the CEO, talking more during my presentation. So yeah, now tell me, is there any question for me? Okay.
My name is Kailash and I have a question. You mentioned the coding example that e-learning is helping. Yes. So people are so much obsessed, are addicted, are accustomed to use of social media and comparing themselves and mentally disturbed. So how do you see, what do you think to indulge people into 21st century like the Korean do?
Okay. It's not only Korea, but most of the developed part of the world are moving towards integration of technology in education. I really buy your idea that there are concerns about putting technology into classroom, because really don't know whether it is misused or used. But then same are the issues with the traditional methodologies that they're using. For example, taking students as on this part as a teacher imparting knowledge. Okay? So there are problems in this approach as well. We don't know whether they all are listening or just sitting there with open eyes. So each issue has got issues in this. We only need to choose smart issues. Okay? And then the issues relevant with our century. And then we have to think about how we can minimize the misuse of it. Because there is misuse of the textbooks or being given physically present. Okay? So with this, I would like to end my talk, and then if there are more questions, I'm happy to give it. Thank you.
This talk was chaired by Dr. Gary Patel. I request him to share comments, please.
Hello everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Shumaila. Actually, how can I begin talking about this speech? You are just doing something very important. Your topic and the way you covered it here was a perfect match, because you said ice breaking is very important. Instead of the term ice breaking, I prefer ice melting, because when you break the ice, it creates a weird sound, right? It is not good for a language classroom. You should melt the ice in the classroom. If you do not melt the ice in the classroom, if you do not begin with a warm-up activity, the things become very difficult, because there are some psychological barriers. Since I am a teacher, educator, we are teaching how to teach English to young learners, for example, or adolescents. And we should be aware of the psychological, emotional, and feeling-related issues in the class. So imagine that You are teaching English in a classroom in which students do not feel secure and comfortable. And your students are younger ones. How can you teach another language? They are already communicating in another language and they do not need a second one. So ice breaking is very important. You should give this message. Here in this classroom, we are going to enjoy together. We will have fun. No problem. If you cannot manage that, the things will be very difficult for you. And assessment. Another key issue, I attach great significance to assessment because if you do not assess something, you cannot teach it. And if you do not assess properly, it will cause negative washback. If you assess reading all the time, you cannot teach speaking. So it is also very important. And the sociocultural theory, constructivism, and all other popular things are covered in this speech. And of course, coursework. As I said yesterday, they are not our polybooks and our curriculum. The way we prepare our curriculum will affect our daily practices. Of course, a teacher should be ready for unexpected situations and should be flexible. But the thing is that your curriculum determines your beliefs, expectations, in general, your teacher identity and interaction. She mentioned the importance and she applied it. So thank you very much. These are my personal views, but I also enjoyed this speech a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khanna. Our next speaker is Professor Dr. Sadhika Zaki. Professor Dr. Sadhika Zaki is Professor of English and Applied Linguistics and Chairperson of Department of Humanities, LAD, University of Engineering and Technology, Pakistan. Her academic and professional experience span over 2 decades with more than 20 years, post-PhD experience and tertiary education. She pioneered BS English Linguistics, MS and PhD program in Applied Linguistics at Humanities Department, LAD, Her research papers are published in international and local peer journals. She was awarded Best Teacher in 2017 by LAD Alumni Association of Southern California. Professor Dr. Sadhika Zaki delivered a talk on practical and pedagogical perspectives of English as a lingua franca, significant to ENTs and PLLs locally. This talk will be chaired by Professor Dr. Habibullah Khan. Dr. Sadhika Zaki, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Riaz, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and the honor. And I am extremely privileged to speak before Dr. Mahmoud Rami, a colleague, a senior, a mentor, and somebody who is a beacon to all younger PhDs in the country. So thank you so much, madam, and all my learned colleagues who share the stage with me. It's an honor to speak before you. My talk is directly addressed because conferences are meant more for undergraduate and postgraduate students who come to listen to a lot of ideas, theories, new developments within a short span of time. So I would like the learners to think of the title for a while before I change my slide. We are looking at English language teachers and we are looking at English language learners, and we are thinking of how do you look at the new concept which is a buzzword these days, lingua franca English. People are still talking about native English, people are still referring to the term second language, people are still referring to the term foreign language, and I think we now need to start paying attention to lingua franca English. We have moved to 21st century. We have come a long way with English language. English language in our part of the world came in the 16th century, and today I am standing here and speaking about it in the 21st century. These changes in the centuries are also developments that are shaping up English language discipline, the theories, English language teaching, English language learning, teacher preparation, and everything about it. So, when we look at English as a native language, we are looking at from the true circle. We see English as mother tongue, first language of people across the globe in certain regions and even within other regions. We are also looking at that primarily this is the inner circle where most countries from the advanced world, the Western world, they are situated. We begin with the parent variety UK and then we move on to American English and then Australia, New Zealand, Caribbean, Canada, and then there are other pockets, smaller pockets across the globe where English is still viewed as L1 and there are multiple other contexts where it's changing rapidly. Then we saw English was used as second and foreign language characterized by the outer circle of Kachtu and the expanding circle of Kachtu, where English was never used, learnt, received as a first language or a mother tongue, rather it was a second language, official language, co-official language, or it was one foreign language available for anyone who wishes to interact with the native community. So it was a foreign language then. Today, in the 21st century, we are hearing about English as a lingua franca. And when we talk about lingua franca, we have to look at the globalized world that we are looking at. This globalized environment requires greater interconnectedness. It requires people to be using all kinds of communication technologies in order to come together, and this coming together is not sanctioned, not controlled by anyone. In this room, many of you, because the connectivity is available, you may decide not to listen to me, rather listen to a YouTube lecture if you want to. Plug in your earbuds and then you are on. So nobody can control. So in this options, access, opportunities that are coming to us, we need to think about what is the new role of English. English is today enabling all of the people who speak whatever first languages, whatever second languages, whatever. They are given a bridge. They are allowed to make swift communication from any part of the world to any part of the world. So here, you can talk to people in any platform, anywhere. I would also like to point out that it's important to know that your 19th century belonged to British English. And last century we have seen the rise of USA, the American English. And 21st century belongs to, by many estimates, lingua franca English. It will not belong to any nationality. It will not belong to any region. It will belong to the globalized international English that we all speak and use. So we are done with the problem of accent. You speak whatever accent you want to. Pakistani, Saraiki, whatever accent. The only thing that you need to ensure is that whatever accent you use, are you able to make yourself intelligible to a person sitting in any part of the world? If that other person is able to understand you, nobody minds your accent. So accent is the problem of the 19th century and the 28th century. It's not the problem of 21st century. Because when you say that English has been owned by the global world, then the global world represents all accents, all mother tongues, all languages and all cultures. Moving very, very quickly to one quote that I would like to. I'm delivering this speech in 2022, but there have been authors who have suggested what would be the world like in future. So I'm bringing a quote here from 1995. Not only has English become international, we were talking about this in the 20th century, English has become international language. The last half century, not because of the last half century from today, we're talking about from the 1995 past half century, 1945 onwards, the world completely transformed. Then the scholarship of about English has also become international. Why to learn English language? This question was brought in by Dr. Khan. This question again resonated with Dr. Shumaila's talk. Why to learn? Find your motivation, find your reason, find your goal, and find your vision. However, it's very easy to find your goal and vision. Why? Because authors have already, and I'm talking to people who are in BS English Linguistics here. You all have these resources and authors available, and you study them as part of the program. This needs to go out into the masses too. You are the people who will educate the masses or the communities or the people that you're connected with. And we need to stop asking this question, which accent, why English? So, Brumfield suggested that there is an international community in the making in 1995. Do we have that international community? Look at the stage. Do we have an international community here? How many languages are represented just on this stage? How many universities? And this, we had other members like the conferences that happened earlier on at the same auditorium that I have been a part of. There were more people from Europe and from Far East. So we are an international community every minute. When you play games, if you are playing games, like I think male members here would agree, boys are so fond of playing games. So when you are playing games with teams in certain rooms, the team members come from all different countries. So we have an international community that in all ways. So what is lingua franca? Let me very quickly point out, it's a bridge language, it's a contact language, it's a vehicular language. What is? You need to learn certain software. English language will become your vehicle, isn't it? Because using that language, you can listen to the videos, tutorials, you can follow certain instructions and learn a particular software and become literate for the 21st century. Maybe it can be your academics, it can be your work. So English language allows you to serve, use it like an instrument, use it like a vehicle in order to reach somewhere, arrive at some place and do certain things in life. A language commonly understood while communicating irrespective of your first language, your mother tongue. The world needs to connect. Chinese need to connect with Americans. Chinese simultaneously needs to connect with Pakistanis. Chinese also need to connect with the Arab world. Chinese also need to connect with Europeans. So it's very difficult for one person in the policy making quarter to learn as many languages as they want. It's easier for all of us to pick one common language and use that in order to connect with people from different countries. So, Cecil Hofer is a very important author to us, and I would like to share this one quote. English as a lingua franca has emerged as a way of referring to communication in English between speakers with different first languages. Most ELF interactions take place among non-native speakers. So, this hints the reason that we were learning English language in order to talk to our colonial masters, isn't it? In the 19th century, in the 17th century, in the 18th century. Why are we learning English today? We are no longer learning English only to talk to people who are the native speakers of English. We are now learning English because most of the people on the planet who speak English, they come from very different first tongues. And this is an immense tool available to us that you can connect your bridges across. How many bridges are needed? As many, 200 plus countries in the world, you can have 200 plus bridges created with English language. And it's vice versa. Another very important point, the people sitting here on that side and this side, Jennifer Jenkins says, Gallagher and Rose, they say that we are the first generation of lingua franca English language speakers, learners and teachers. First generation. Why? Because lingua franca started in 2000 and we are So by this definition, Dr. Shumaila would agree that I am only 22 years old. That's my age. First generation. We have to get older, mature, and have the tools. Penny has talked about, and I really agree with this, because as a university professor, as somebody who's teaching at a university, this is important, that most of the people who are learning English at universities, at colleges, they are learning it as a lingua franca. Why? Because they need to use it for business, they need to use it for trade, they need to use it for their professional advancement, they need to use it for pursuing higher studies, they need to function in official formal context within and beyond the borders. So, by this definition, I agree that most of the people, so all of you sitting here, and why you have a separate department of linguistics, I think that rationale should now emerge. Because you will go and teach at schools, you will be giving probably tuitions to younger children. You need to think about what language skills and sub-skills you need to impart. What should they be trained in doing with English language? English language, when we see it as a lingua franca, it's synonymous with the globalized and international arena usage of English language. However, I would like to also point out that when we speak about English language, which is a lingua franca, we need to revisit the definition of speech community. Earlier on, our speech community was the primary community where we were born, where we had our cultural roots, where we were in person connected. So these are probably the places that we were born into, the communities that we relate from. But when we talk about speech community with respect to English language today, we need to see it's no longer a language that is used by a primary speech community, rather it's a language that needs to be used by a virtual or a secondary speech community. So when you come to universities, when you go to another city for a conference, when you are attending a virtual session, when you are reading something or listening to a YouTube video, all of these platforms connect you to a secondary or a virtual community. And that community, just like your primary speech community, is very important to you. Because they are the ones who are giving you education, they are the ones who are probably giving you books, they are the ones probably giving you technology, they are the ones probably giving you certain, some internships, probably placements, certain stipends, probably certain assistance, knowledge transfer, whatever. And they are the people, places where you will be working in future. You will be working with in future. So it's important to take into account that there are now multiple communities that we shuttle between. So you are going back to your village, you are attending a Eid festival there, you are going to your primary community, and there you need to use Saraiki with pride, with confidence, with clarity. But then, today you are going to another place, and there you need to take your interview and tell them, with your English language training and education, how valuable you will be to that organization. Over there, you are talking about your English language training in the 21st century, your probably the impact that you can bring to an organization. So this is important that you focus on the right tool at the right point in time. So speech communities. Cultural communities, they have identity in common, culture in common. When we talk about speech communities that are virtual, speech communities that are probably secondary speech community, over there we look at common interests, common goals, common practices and common vision. So this is where your secondary speech communities, they come together. So there are so many, sometimes it happens, I'm so grateful Dr. Shumaila acknowledged me in such a big way. Remember, she comes from a very different speech community. And before our professional network, we never met. We only met at conferences. But today, we really feel that we are so trusted, so close. What is this new relationship that I have created? Is this important? It's equally important to having a cousin or a sister. This relationship is equally important. So I'm just elaborating that how lingua franca can help you in making those contexts that can help you in surviving today in the 21st century. You are not getting a supervisor, you're not getting a job, you're not getting an internship placement, probably because of scarce resources, possibilities in your city. Can you use English in order to attract those opportunities if they are present outside? And not just English, you can also learn. Today people are learning English to make bridges with all of the communities. So learn other languages. That's the change that has come in. Have I lost that time? Yeah. I'll very quickly refer to this point. I've skipped a couple of slides. There was a time where English was distributed to the entire world by the British, isn't it? Colonization. The English was transported to different parts of the world. That is referred to as paradigm of language distribution. The natives went out and they handed out the books, they handed out the norms, they handed out the standards. And we were supposed to follow it, receive it, take it, and copy it, imitate it. In 21st century, a new paradigm has come. And that new paradigm talks about the paradigm of language spread. Whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, English language is increasingly spreading from various sources. So there are people who are native speakers passing on language to you, and then you are also learning language today by most non-native speakers. I'll just add to what Dr. Abibullah Pathan said, that he was showing you the number of English language users across the globe. Can you imagine South Asia alone makes up a bigger English language community than the American English language community? At the moment, American English is the largest English variety, the strongest English variety on the planet. And can you imagine what a potential we have? South Asia, 3 countries only, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. These 3 countries make up larger English language speech community than America. What a potential when you have a country like Pakistan, 40% people are below the poverty line, unemployment. Can you still think of your ideologies from the 19th century or 20th century? You have to have a completely new dimension, new perspective. There are theories, authors are publishing literature, doing research, bringing ideas, amazing theories to guide you. But then on the other side, we need to also look at how and why we need to apply that. Just concluding, when you look at paradigm of distribution, the actual language has to be adopted as it is, adopt. जो दिया है खामोशी से ले लीजिए and conform to it, isn't it? When you are handed over language by the natives, you have to just receive it and conform to it. Whereas when you talk about the language that is automatically spread and come to your room, I can just share, I'm reminded of my maid who hails from a very small town in Sindh, and she works for me for the last 7 years, and as she's come in search of job, she has started picking up English language from my children. And I remember that the first 2 words that she picked from my children, thank you and sorry. And she developed her own amazing pronunciation of sorry, and she used to say, sorry Baji. So, she used to say, sorry Baji. But the point is intelligible, I can understand it. Do I need to really correct her? Do I need to change her? No. But see, because of the language spread, she is picking up language fast. Without nobody, no conscious effort on her part or our part. So, when we adapt language, we will bring non-conformity. And this is somebody in the audience asked this question, why accent? We don't need to, because non-conformity has been allowed because of language spread. आपको जहाँ से भी language सीखने को मिलेगी, आप वही adapt करते चले जाएंगे. There is no one single standard, no one single accent, no one single pronunciation. When you talk about lingua franca English, it has liberated all of us. It has brought us out of the native culture. So, in the curriculum, why only poetry or fiction or stories coming from one culture? Why not all cultures? So the best thing about lingua franca, and I'll end my talk here, that in lingua franca, we accept the diversity of the world. When we say acceptance of the diversity of the world, it means everyone is a speaker, everyone is the owner, everyone has the rights, and then every person's culture is represented in lingua franca English. So no one culture, neither UK nor American, no. Every culture is represented in lingua franca. So I think I've taken my time. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, Dr. Satya. This talk was shared by Professor Dr. Abdullah Khattam. I request him to please share comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satya, for giving insights on the critical and pedagogical perspective of the lingua franca. Rightly mentioned how lingua franca as a concept has evolved in the 21st century, and we started on talking about different developments shaping the theories and the different perspectives. We also, while talking about it, we spoke about having three models, eccentric models, and also talked about how ICT is changing this concept as well. Then she talked about three major centuries, starting in the 19th century, then 20th century, influenced by US, and then she also apprised us of Gola, the 21st century is a century of no one, so nobody is the owner of anything, and that's probably where you feel that access matter anymore. Your L2 can be influenced by L1, so in whatever accent you speak is more acceptable. And that's what the specialty of 21st century adaptation. So then told us about how the new speech community is evolving, this is because of the virtual adaptation in the 21st century. There was the major point you made about the comprehension and how we move from distribution to language spread. And the last highlight of our talk, I believe that you might have also other points, was that in the 21st century, if you're going to incorporate changes, we need to have two terms. One is adaptation, and the second is non-conformity. So with this, I really want to wait for you for a little talk. Thank you very much.
Now I humbly request Professor Dr. Maimuna Ghani, Dr. Ali Karkash, Dr. Galib Kartal, and Dr. Riyad Hassan to please come and present shields. Professor Dr. Habibullah Khattam is requested to receive his shield, please. Dr. Shahaya Naman, please receive your shield. Dr. Sajida Zaki, please receive your shield. Thank you so much. Dear audience, we are heading towards our panel discussion for the next segment. excellent exchange of ideas on reorientation and innovation in the 21st century, second foreign language learning and teaching. For the useful introspection of the topic, I request the worthy panelists, Professor Dr. Mamunagani, Professor Dr. Sajida Zaki, Professor Dr. Habibullah Batan, Dr. Shumaila Ijaz, Dr. Nushabaha, Dr. Shazad Kareem, Dr. Rufaida Khan, and Dr. Tahir Asghar as moderator to please raise the stage with your presence.
Thank you, Dr. Jamil. Assalamu alaikum. And a very good morning. This is Tahir Asghar, and I am moderator for today's panel discussion. I'm honored to welcome all the panelists of today's discussion who have graced this forum with their worldly presence and valuable insights. I would first like to introduce the topic of today's discussion, that is reorientations and innovations in 21st century second language learning and teaching. As we are the digital natives, we live in a transformed world at this point of time, not only in the context of technological developments, but also in terms of post-pandemic scenario. This has had an impact on all of our lives, both personally and professionally. 21st century is marked by integration of technology into the thread of second language learning and teaching. Today, in relation to English language learning, teaching and learning, we come across concepts like computer-assisted language learning, mobile-assisted language learning, MOOCs, and bootcamps. We have also having flipped classrooms with blended learning. There are many more language learning applications available in market today for interactive language learning, such as Kahoots. Moreover, this pandemic has influenced educational practices in relation to teaching and learning in all the fields worldwide, and the field of second language learning and teaching, it is no exception. On the one hand, this pandemic restricted on-campus interactions of teachers and students, and on the other hand, it resulted in emergence and extensive use of new technologies that not only aided the process of virtual interactions during this peculiar time period, but also changed the whole scenario of teaching and learning. For instance, during the pandemic and in the post-pandemic scene as well, there has been an increased use of video conferencing tools like Zoom and Microsoft Teams. For online interactions between students and teachers, among scholars, for conducting webinars or for meetings, among participants belonging to other fields. Thus, 21st century has witnessed a revolution in the traditional teaching and learning process. Such reorientations and innovations in second language learning and teaching have subsequently become a matter of concern for educationists and specifically for language instructors and language policy makers today. In this context, we are faced with the challenge to equip our students not only with the knowledge of second language, but also to get them familiarized with the 21st century skills. And these skills include problem solving, critical thinking, and many others. Therefore, today there is a dire need not only to highlight the importance of these 21st century skills, but to go beyond the usual grammatical or lexical level of second language learning, and to implement such skills in our language classrooms as well. With this, I would now like to switch this forum towards a fruitful discussion on the topic destined for today, that is reorientations and innovations in 21st century second language learning and teaching. I do hope that this discussion will go a long way in enhancing our knowledge and understanding of the topic by generating reflective responses from our esteemed panelists. I would like to start the discussion with your permission. Dr. Ramula, my dear ma'am, Being an experienced, competent, and an acknowledged expert, what do you think? What kind of problems research supervisors and supervisees used to face in the field of English language teaching and education?
Thank you very much, Dr. Tara, for inviting me to talk about such an important issue. This moment, I'm sitting here, it has taken me back to 2004. After completing my PhD in 2003, I came back to Pakistan with a great will and thirst and very dedicated students, plans to start research culture in Pakistan. At this moment, I must acknowledge the efforts by late Professor Dr. Zafar Khan. Before I left for my PhD, he was the motivation behind this journey as well. In 2004, I enrolled 4 PhD students in Pakistan, and that was a very, big change in Pakistani institutions. My business plan was not liked by many other senior professors in Pakistan. To be honest, of course I'm not going to name them, but they said, no, it's not possible to do PhD in Pakistan. I said, why? Why can't supervise in Pakistan? They said, no, how can you do PhD in Pakistan? I said, well, just like you and we did PhD, because we got opportunity and we did our PhD. And if it's not available to all others who want to pursue their PhD studies in Pakistan or abroad, if they are not getting any scholarship, then what they are going to do. So I think it's our job, moral job, a professional job as well, to offer these programs in Pakistan. That was one side, but as Dr. Brian asked me, the problems faced not only by supervisors, of course they try, we used to try as well when we were abroad. We were upset about the new ideas, new pattern of teaching, learning, research. Many things were not known to us at that time. Because in 1992 I went for my high studies, and at that time, I think there was no culture in Pakistan institutions for research. It was very hard to find PhDs in the different fields. Okay, coming back to the problems faced by supervisors, not only supervisors, student scholars may face problems, but the supervisors as well. It's a long journey. I think almost 20 years or 22 years. Right. I invited my student at my home that I can't find some time in the department, and okay, we are going to have some discussion on this topic. We are going to discuss all these themes. I sat in my garden. I had asked my Masi to prepare some tea or coffee at that time. I said, okay, I took a time of 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, quarter past 4, half past 4, 4:45, and then 5. And no one turned up. Why? That was the major question. I was very surprised. I was not very Pakistani, supervisor at the time. I was very clear, being punctual. I'm not making fun of my Pakistani supervisor. I'm Pakistani as well. I'm really proud of myself and my other colleagues. But it's the punctuality of time. And I was very annoyed at that. Next day I said, okay, bother to inform me that now we are not coming. Not even a single out of 4. One was outside and 3 from the Harbour Road, and they didn't come. And next day, they were not apologetic as well. That was the first so I see as a supervisor. Two things are very important. That was just an example. Non-serious attitude on the part of the supervisors, the self-storers. Today's culture, what is happening here, usually is done only for the sake of promotion. Only if they are not teachers, then just get 5,000 for MPhil and 10,000 for PhD. Non-teaching, workers, employees in the universities or institutions. This is the height of unfortunate, destination of opinion, to be honest. Secondly, they mix they don't give importance. I'm not talking about all the students. I have produced to date 48 PhDs. And out of 48, I can hardly 10 or 12. I face some non-serious attitude. But most of them, luckily, I'm lucky enough that, and I have done there as well, staying in the hall as well, staying here as well. If I look at, if I look at them, I have, appreciation for them. That I was a deputy supervisor, that most of my students were very deputies. And they are serving in prestigious institutions, not only in Pakistan, but abroad as well. Third thing is that in today's culture, sector, publication of papers on the basis of money. How could you produce 10 papers in 2 months? I can't. I did not pay even a single money for my research papers. That is another problem these days. So, what is going on? It should be heavily discouraged. Not only by the supervisor, of course supervisor will be discouraged, but by the heads of the institutions as well. When the time comes for the promotion, one should see that only 2 or 3 papers are fine in 6 months or 1 year. Not more than that. Because you cannot justify with original research. So we have to revisit these things. All the experts are sitting here. I would like them to highlight all these problems as well. But as a supervisor can supervise. Supervising, some common lie with the female supervisors as well. They mix the domestic duties with the research. And it's so annoying most of the time. As a female, I made it really, I distributed my duties and my educational duties. We have to sacrifice most of the time. I sacrificed my personal life. I couldn't give time to my daughter. But we have to do some, but I did not sacrifice my professional duties. People who are sitting here, I think from very early stages, Himayla is sitting here, and my other students are sitting here. They are my colleagues. They are serving in other colleges and universities. I was always there for them. But it doesn't mean that I did not give time to my child. I did. But I made a balance. So what is needed? A balanced approach is needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable insights. Dr. Namina, she highlighted the problems she faced and that many of us are still facing. One must be punctual and one must take the responsibility of feel the burden that what we are going to do. So now, Moving towards Dr. Sashka Zaki, a renowned name. Ma'am, how do you compare English language teaching in colonial times and modern era in the subcontinent?
A question that can really initiate a long debate and discussion, but I'll try to keep it very short. Yes, I already in my presentation highlighted that English language is introduced through the colonial channel. However, it is 21st century. Unfortunately, because whatever way it was introduced in our country, most of the places are still stuck. In what ways we are stuck? First of all, we are still looking at the same language to be learned and used and taught and read and written. Same language. Whether it was language or literature, whatever. The second important thing is the way it was taught, appreciated, passed on, used. We still want to keep it in the same way. It cannot be taught in the same way. Today we are looking at the focus of English language has changed. If the language has changed itself, then we need to change the way it has to be used, it has to be learned, and it has to be taught. It is surprising that even the language that was introduced to our part of the world back in the Victorian times, no one speaks and uses that language in Britain. Even in Britain, only 7 to 8% people speak the RP, the received pronunciation, or the Queen's English, or the BBC English. From one end to the other end, if you move from the entire UK, if you go to Wales, Ireland, Scotland, if you are in central London, if you move to Birmingham, or you move to Nottingham, these different corners, you will be able to experience English language varies, British English varies. And it's sometimes so very different that you won't imagine that you are in England and you are listening to British English, which it's unintelligible to you. So this is another important development, that the language that we have been introduced, that language itself is changing, and we need to update our understanding of what language is and how it needs to be taught. Then English language, as if you enter the auditorium, I was really inspired that outside Islamic University Bahawalpur has put up all the sustainable development goals up front, and I really appreciate it. I captured a picture of it as I go back, because only people who are familiar with sustainable development goals, they know the importance of that. And English language, I just on Saturday read out a paper in an international conference that was primarily based on this, that quality education for sustainable future. And when you talk about quality education for sustainable future, then English language classes become the seat of teaching students to contribute to a sustainable future, to become a sustainable 21st century citizens, global citizens, planetary citizenship. And for that, English language needs to really transform.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sashka. I agree with you, and I second your opinion that language learning and teaching is a dynamic phenomenon, and we must focus on its descriptive approach, not on the prescriptive one. We must change our ways, the way we teach, and the students must look at how and what they are utilizing, how they are utilizing the language, and what are their purposes to communicate. Next, I come towards Dr. Shmaila. Ma'am, we would love to hear your views about the phenomenon. Would you kindly let us know specifically about the situation with English language teaching developments in Pakistan?
Okay. When it comes to Pakistan, like I've already built the narrative during my presentation, we may not be very much updated with whatever is happening in the global scenes, but nevertheless, change is slowly and gradually coming. Like the teacher's role is no more like of that of traditional one who only comes and speaks and others listen. But we may have seen that we all have shifted our pedagogical approach from being traditional to being facilitator, because now this ideology that language is for production. And for that, teachers have to be facilitators rather than being only distributor of the knowledge. So that shift is here, although very slow, but it's coming. Learners are changing. They are no more only acquiescents to listen and then reproduce. But I've seen that, if not each learner in the classroom, but then somehow, learners are also changing from being only listener to the total responsible ones. Then coming towards infrastructure of the classrooms, we may be still sitting under fair and saying not so luxurious like this auditorium, but then to some extent digital inclusion is coming. For EMD, I would like to mention a lot of apps which we are using on mobile for listening, speaking, and recording our writing practices. So digital inclusion is also coming, and then overall this all is changing the perspective of EMD in Pakistan context. So it may not be very great change, but change is on the way, and then it depends upon us how much way we are to experiment more. We need to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Change is on the way. Thank you, Dr. Shweta. Now we will take the expert opinion from Dr. Habibullah Khan. Sir, can you enlighten us about standardization in education and English language teaching?
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak about a very important topic. The major issue, again, I said in 21st century is a standard in itself. Because if we divide our generations into different categories, probably you all fall into millennials. Right? Today, the concept of millennials has changed. For the age of even 30, we will call you millennials. An education system we have today is not the education system or standard for the millennials. There's a big mismatch. The education system we have was based on industrialized system, and in an industrialized system, only one thing matters, which is called money, and which is called economy. And you know, in the modern time, what is happening? Economic models change with boom of one particular event, and economics model change. And therefore, the big giants, they change the overall outlook of education as well. So the standard in itself is one of the biggest issues. What standards should we have for the education? Because this is actually not the education system we should have. The current education system we have is based on teach test level. You teach and test. There's nothing in the middle. So when you teach and test, the testing model is what? Is mostly on the very baseline level. There is lack of creativity, there is a lack of divergent thinking. Because when you ask about answer of any particular question, this is how your education standard is tested. अगर आपको A या B ग्रेड मिलता है, उसका मकसद है कि आपने 69% दिया होगा, 70% दिया होगा, उसका मकसद ये है कि आपने 5 सवालों के जवाब सही दिए होंगे या गलत दिए होंगे. So there is one right answer, there is one wrong answer. There is no concept of better answer, the best answer. So creativity से आगे आजकल जो discussion चल रहे हैं standard of education model is not even about creativity, क्योंकि creativity itself is an industrial term. The 21st century में boom ज़्यादा क्या है कि 21st century में creativity हर चीज़ का आप दाखिल करते हैं, लेकिन creativity का मकसद क्या है? Creativity is a kind of solution which adds value. अब adds value is again industrial, उनके add value करेंगे तो उनके लिए वो creativity बन जाएगी. लेकिन that adding value also is answering one answer. नया कॉन्सेप्ट आ रहा है एजुकेशन में, a lot of educations जो आज को काम कर रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं डाइवर्जेंट थिंकिंग पे बात करें, क्रिएटिविटी पे बात ना करें, डाइवर्जेंट थिंकिंग पे बात करें. उसका जो मेजर रीजन, मेजर क्रक्स है, that is, there could be hundreds answers which are better answers. There is no concept of one answer which is wrong answer or what is right answer. There could be hundreds of answers which are better answers, not right answer or right or wrong answer. तो मेरे ख्याल से इस तरीके से अगर हम जो टीचर्स बैठे हैं यहाँ पे जो ऑफिस में, बिकॉज आई अंडरस्टैंड पॉलिसी चेंज होने में बहुत टाइम लगता है, करिकुलम चेंज होने में बहुत टाइम लगता है, लेकिन एट आवर लेवल, एट क्लासरूम लेवल हम इन चीज़ों को प्रमोट करें, क्योंकि जो आगे हमारे जो पीछे ये जो क्लास होती है, अगेन आई कॉल मिलेनियल्स, हम तो थोड़े से मैं आपको आखिरी डिफाइन कर देता हूँ. तो जनरेशन के डिवीजन आप वो समझें कि नंबर 1 इज जो वेटरन जनरेशंस होती हैं, ठीक है, वेटरन जनरेशन का मकसद है, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल पीपल हु आर ओवर द एज ऑफ 70, दे सॉ वेरी डिफरेंट वन. आप हमारे पास जो पॉलिसी मेकिंग में बैठे हैं मोस्टली फ्रॉम दैट वेटरन जनरेशन. उसके बाद नया वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद कॉन्सेप्ट शुरू होता है that is called baby boomers. वो the second generation. उसके बाद हमारे पास X generation आ गई, Y generation आ गई. अब उसके बाद हम कह रहे हैं millennials को alpha generation. तो याद करें, बहुत mixed चीजें चल रही हैं कि mix of generations are sitting at the different policy making level. इन चीजों को हमें देखना पड़ेगा. And the one thing I can stress, more than creativity, what today is required is divergent thinking. फिर जाकर हम कोई अच्छा करिकुलम डेवलप कर पाएंगे, अच्छा एजुकेशन स्टैंडर्ड करिकुलम का स्टैंडर्ड, so that we compete with the modern world. So these are my points on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhatt. But we must not only develop creativity, but diversity too. Thank you. Now I'll come towards Dr. Rukeza. I invite your observations and understanding of the topic. I want to know that how do you observe the impact of globalization on English language teaching and in the perspective of our discussion?
Okay. First of all, thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my views. The term globalization, we are hearing this term since long, as the increasement of the technology and advancement has been moved on. But specifically after pandemic, drastic changes have been observed, especially in context of ELT or language learning situations. Because I currently also am teaching 300 students, teaching language to them. So I found that being a teacher, it's very challenging for the language teachers. How can you retain the attention of the students, and then it's also, I think, one of the challenging situations for the learners as well, that how can they retain the situation and retain their attention towards language learning when you have this online phases of the learning, And the technology is also one of the mediator between the teacher and the student or the learner, which really takes us to the dependency and takes us, I believe, to the out of the real life situations. So in order to cater all of these situations, we have to devise and revise, I believe, to the methodology and to the language patterns, learning patterns, which would create interest among the students, which would regain the attention of the students, and which would promote a new paradigm of the language teaching and learning. And moreover, we have so many, if you look all around, we have the Duolingo, one of the very famous, it has introduced so many tools. So we should give them the awareness to the students that they could use such tools for language learning, which would create ease for the teachers, and plus it would also create give interest to the students that they could amalgamate such new technology in their language learning, and they could be facilitated in that way. So and we can also see that along with the, of course, the classroom teaching and language learning, all around the world, so many exchange programs, so many programs, and the specific context has been also been offered to the students, where students are given opportunities to learn the language, in a special context, especially when we talk about the English which is a lingua franca. So all along this, that it's not only the teacher which needed to be, bring on to the situation, but rather the technology also aided, and it has to be promoted along with the teaching patterns. So in order to create a situation.
Thank you. Dr. Khalid Barkar, may I have your expert opinion and can you share your ideas on the usefulness of latest technological developments in relation to English language teaching and English language learning, precisely in the context of post-pandemic settings?
Okay, thank you very much. Now we are making a distinction, right? COVID-19 process, post-COVID-19 process, and before that. Actually, the thing is that pandemic just accelerated the things. We are going to be more and more online. We are going to make use of the virtual classrooms more and more. But the thing is that we just did it in a short time because we had to switch to that environment. As for the things that are waiting for us after this pandemic is actually, instead of preferring one of them, whether online, virtual, or face-to-face, in person, the thing is that actually we need to consider hybrid ones, right? Because both fully online and fully face-to-face classrooms have some advantages and disadvantages. In this century, why should we transport for a long time and be in a language class? On the other hand, in a language class, we are not only learning or teaching a language, we are also learning from each other. And language communication involves not only verbal communication, but on the other hand, many things can be done online. So the best way is hybrid. As for the opportunity, I can mention this metaverse, augmented reality, and virtual environments. We can meet them with our avatars and we can communicate there. So when we consider all these things, good days are waiting for us, because when you see someone who is speaking very well, when you ask his or her story, you can hear this. I learned by watching movies, by playing some games. The thing is that it doesn't mean we do not need teachers. We can socialize together, we can learn from each other, but we can achieve this by using a hybrid version. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid. Now, Dr. Nishana, please, all of us want to hear your kind opinion that how do you perceive the developments of PhD or English language teaching in Pakistan in modern times?
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaya. Definitely there has been a lot of improvement in the field of PhD. And I think the major factor is the introduction and promotion of the Department of Linguistics in the different universities of Pakistan. Because previously English was there were used to be only English literature departments, and English language was taught only by the teachers of English literature. So they were using very traditional methods like audio-visual method or normal translation method. But as the new trends started and the departments of linguistics started working, the teachers became aware of the modern strategies of teaching English language to communicative language or task-based learning. And I think that as the previous presenters told you that the number of speakers in English language is increasing day by day, and I think definitely EFT is playing its vital role, and the English language teachers are better aware of the new technologies, and of course, as the number of speakers is increasing, we cannot ignore the vital role being played by the linguistic departments in different universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nishana. I want to extend my heartiest gratitude to every one of you, especially the worthy panelists who extracted time out of their busy schedules to ignite the light of knowledge. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Esther. Our next speaker is Dr. Reza Khan. Dr. Khan is serving as an assistant professor in the National University of Science and Technology, Islamabad. Dr. Khan has published multiple research papers and presented as speakers in international and national conferences. She has also played a remarkable role as member of SPEC, Society of Pakistani English Language Teachers, and members of National Institute Association, Pakistan. Dr. Khan will deliver a talk on interculturalization, the section of virtual and Punjabi speakers while using the Urdu language. This talk will be chaired by Dr. Ali Karakan. Dr. Khan, please.
very much. First of all, I would like to begin gratitude and feeling so honored and privileged to be here. This is my first visit in Nagpur. So thank you very much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share the knowledge and learning also on this platform. The topic of my presentation is interculturalization, perception of Pashto and Punjabi speakers while using Urdu language. This was actually an idea, the notion, the problem. I found it by living in the society, and I am residing in Islamabad, which is a metropolitan city actually, where multiple or multicultural people living together in one speech community. And while living in this speech community, we have this interculturalization factors I used to come across when I interact with my colleagues, my students, my fellows, that when two different cultural people, when they interact in one common language, that is Urdu in Pakistan, so what are the things, or what are the commonalities, what are the differences we find, in the interaction? So this came to the problem, and I wrote a research paper on it, and today I am here to present and share my views on it, the research I conducted on it. So first of all, I would like, as an abstract, I just tell that I have particularly taken the two speech community people from Pashtun and the Punjabi speakers. And as you know, the language is very much important, and it is being influenced by the culture. It doesn't come on its own, rather there is a background of the cultural which actually influence on the language, which is glimmered and reflected in one's personality. So by taking this perspective, I have taken into the frame of 3 P's, which I am going to share with you. But before that, let me just tell you what I have particularly interrogated in this whole research is that I just see that what are the commonalities, what are the differences being found when one Pashtun speaker is put in some cultural specific context, how he or she is reacting in that situation, and what the other, the Punjabi speaker, he is being reacted in particular situations. So I have tried to create different situations, different domains, which I will share with you. And the results were very interesting, the responses were very interesting. I couldn't share all, of course, with you, but just I will tell you as generically what I found as a result. So before coming to the very ways and the domains and the questions, let me just tell you a little bit background of the importance of interculturalization in the realm of this language. The Czech and Storza in 1988 elaborates that today's world, cultural diversity and intercultural communication is becoming common in organization and business affairs. We cannot underestimate the importance of interculturalization and cross-culturalization in today's era. There are so many reasons, as we just talked about the globalization and internationalization and lingua franca. This takes us to one speech community. And when we are merging us in one speech community, of course, our cultural clashes come together. And these cultural clashes bring so many other things. But what are the importance of being connected with each other? There are so many reasons, as one of the researchers of SETA highlighted, that the business and the trade is one of the reasons. You know about it, the Pashtun speakers, they are very much in businesses, so they have to interact on a national or an international level. So how they could get to create this cross-culturalization in this paradigm. Then interculturalization is commonly observed in Pakistan as well, because Pakistan, if we look at the Pakistan itself, Pakistan is a very multilingual country. We have so many languages over here, and when we have so many languages, of course, we have so many cultures as well. So when we have so many cultures, we have this interculturalization perspective when we are doing a business, when we are doing a trade, when we are doing interactions, and when we are, of course, obtaining education in different universities. As in NAST, we have students from all across the country. from different paraphrase. So we have a big speech community of the Pashtun speakers and the Punjabi speakers over there. And same with case with other organizations also. In this regard, a lot of literature review has been done, a lot of different factors have been discussed. Let me just tell a few of them and quote few of them. The Council 2004 argues that the need for contact with people of diverse cultural backgrounds is essential to the stability of interpersonal relations and business activities and new age of unparalleled international economic interaction. Moreover, Byron 2008 described the international speaker who can serve as a mediator between various cultures, values, and behavior, being more mindful of cultural differences and commonalities. This is another paradigm of research. If you learn more than one language, it also develops your cognition. And when you have understanding and when you have the language competency of more than one languages, of course, according to the research, and especially this Byron I am quoting, that he is of the view that it makes you more mindful, more thoughtful, not only of your own language, but you can again redevelop the cultural and language patterns of the other language as well, and you can also understand your own culture well, because you have more wider exposure, you have more real-life experience, and this makes you or enables you to do the contrast and comparison. Moreover, to follow up with this idea, Bennett and in an international cultural normalization situation say that this bicultural people may have a higher social consciousness than monocultural. So we are being, you can say, privileged in this case that Pakistan is a multilingual country and everyone knows more than one language and maybe two languages. So this takes us to the higher competency from a cognition point of view as well. And this
जड़ा मुंह मारूं वो भी कुछ आता दे दूंगा लोग मंगा जगह ना
most critical of all the problems faced by the mankind. In a general situation, I really found because I used to teach the language as an IELTS as a separate courses of the language as well, where the people maybe or the students who are not really literate maybe or they are from the other fields, they are maybe from the engineering field and other fields, they found this language very, very much in their business, in their jobs, in their professional life. They think that we cannot communicate our education, we cannot communicate our understanding to the others because of this intercultural barrier maybe or because of this language barrier. Now this paper particularly, I have taken almost 150 Pathans and 150 Punjabi people, and they are being put into different contextual situations and they are being asked different questions. This actually whole research takes us into the action research because I have applied 3 P's on it. That is the perspective, then practice, and then the product. Let me tell you about the perspective, practice, and the product. Perspective are your beliefs, your ideas, your thinking patterns, your attitudes, and from where all these develop, where you are living, where your community develops, your culture develops your ideas, your beliefs. You start thinking according to your culture. You start thinking, you start believing, you start behaving according to your culture, according to your community. And then these perspectives lead to the practice. You start practice also what, when, where, how, according to the again particular cultural context. So culture is very much associated with the language. Whenever we talk about the language, there is a culture. And then finally, the product comes, and in the product, if you listen to some music, if you eat some food, if you talk about some literature, if you talk about some music, whatever you like, and from where this liking comes? From your culture. So you do it the way you think, and your thinking is developed through your culture. So all these are patronized in a streamline, and that's what culture is founded by. So now I have taken 4 main, you can say, the domains in which the question has been interrogated actually. The first main question was that the respondents were host, some questions based on the emotional situations. I will just share with you. The second domain questions were related to disjunctive, formality, and questions. That's how they used to be. For example, being a Saraiki speaker, you have a particular way of greeting your guest. The Pashtuns, they have some specific way of greeting and showing and behaving the formality, right? And the Punjabis have their own. So these old greetings I just taken up some particular situation and I just asked them that how do you greet in that particular situation. Then the very important factor, especially from a Pashtun's community, the grammatical gender questions. Because in a Pashto, because I am Pashtun and Punjabi both, my father is Pashtun and my mother is Punjabi. So that's why I've taken this work and I'm a blended and hybrid one. So I've taken from the community that these problems occurs. Now the Pashtun, basically they face this problem of the gender, the basic, because in Pashtun we have no, you can say the different words, the linguistic items for male and female. For instance, if we say, tum khana khaogi, so the Pashtun they used to say, the guy okay, and this actually okay means that they have the same word. Okay, so the Pashtun speakers actually, as they don't have this gender different linguistic items, they are being dependent on it, and that's why when they use the national language, Urdu language, they have the problem in this that they could not use it separately because of their habit, because of their language dependency. And the Punjabi, on the other hand, they have different gender linguistic items, so they don't have a problem. So I have taken this unit as well to just get to know that how much this stereotype notion is being improved or not improved. Then the last domain was of implicit and explicit questions being asked. They are giving some context in which some situation has been created where some implicit ideas have been expected or some explicit ideas have been expected according to the situation. So let me share these questions with you to just give you an idea actually. The first domain actually questions I posed to evoke their emotions and how do you behave in this situation. For instance, I asked what the respondent will say to a child if he is standing in a queue in a van and the child accidentally dirties his pants with his chocolate. So I just say that just assume yourself that you are standing in a queue van and the child passed by and just throws the chocolate on your pan and get dirty. So what do you do in this situation? I asked from the Punjabi speaker and I asked from the Pashtun speaker. So many interesting things come to me because 150 Pashtuns were there and 150 Punjabi speakers were there. And then I asked the question, what are the reaction of the respondent when a neighbor's dog spoil their garden? Okay, if your garden is being spoiled by a dog, what would you do in that situation? If you are Pathan, what would you do? And if you are Punjabi, what would you do? So that also gave me a really interesting answers. And then how the respondent will respond to communication if someone beats and irritates their brother in school. Okay? So if this thing happens to you, if your brother is being beaten by someone, what will you do in that situation? If you are a Pathan, what would you do? And if you are a Punjabi, what would you do? So this is my first domain. Actually, I asked the questions from them. And then in domain 2, the degree of formality is being interrogated. For instance, I asked if some guests come to you, how would you greet? How would you introduce yourself? So again, a lot of differences come up. Then to check the level of formality in communication while exposing culture, if you have to talk about the culture, how would you expose yourself? Then I also asked that if your If the car is being accidented and have damaged the car and are informing their father to check the degree of criminality, if the car is accidented by, the son, how the father will react. If the father is Pathan, how will he react? If the father is Punjabi, how will he react? Okay, so I pose this emotional contextual situation to see what kind of language they are using in that particular situation. In Urdu, yes, of course. Then in domain 3, I check the grammar. I ask the questions related to the grammar because normally we think that the Pashtun speakers, they have the problem in this grammar, especially as I just highlighted of male and female gender. So I just made design some questions related to that as well. And then in the domain 4, I asked the questions related to, again, implicit and explicit behavior, how far they could expose their emotions in that situation. For example, the question that checks what the respondent will say to his friend who is inviting him, but he does not want to go. Check the implicit and explicit use of language, okay? So, if your friend is inviting you and you don't want to go, how would you say no, okay? What would be your level of, you can say, the choice of the language you use, the choice of, I must say, the formality you will use, how would you say no? So, in these particular speech communities, how the people react. So these different 4 domains were created, and let me share the results with you. The results were, by the way, was not as expected because I was also have the stereotype notion as our community have, But then I realized, I observed, I read different research papers on it. I think so. What were those factors? Oh, no issue. Okay. I want to show you the table of Pathans and Punjabis, and you can see in these different 4 domains I have discussed with you how explicit they were or how implicit they were when they have shared their responses with me. So the category 1, which was of emotional situation. In both situations, the Pathans were found more explicit, but the Punjabis were more implicit. It means that they are more formal, and Pathans, they are informal. In category 2, which was related to greetings and, to check the level of formality over here, and unexpected results came up. That was the both speech community speakers, they were implicit in their results, means that they both were formal. And then in category 3, where the gender mistakes, of course, Pathans, they made more gender mistakes, and the Punjabis, they were having no mistakes. Or actually, I just ratioed up to 70 to 80% people, they were having no problem in this context of the grammar. In category 4, where the implicit and explicit questions were posed, again, this was surprising for me. In both cases, both the speech community were implicit. So over here we found that now the stereotype notion that the Pashtuns, they are more blunt, more emotional, it's getting vanishing and diminishing. Now what are the factors? What my analysis is? What are the factors? I read different papers and I observed all around, there's so many factors which are involved which has actually taken up to this transformation of speech communication where people are mingling and they are behaving same like. The first factor is education. Education is one of the important factors in human development because it is now centralized and globalized. What we have discussed over here, that this, especially the pandemic, has brought this globalization very much interconnected, all around the world. People get very interconnected and centralized. And then, if you look at the education policy specifically in Pakistan, in 1979, the ownership of the education policies were being transferred to the private institutions where a lot of improvement has been done. And then this LAM, Religiously and Mass Education Committee was also developed, which formally and non-formally strategies were being promoted for the literacy actually. Although these policies have been introduced, regularized, practiced also, but it has not been practiced as required. But still, education has to play a massive role in bringing these speech communities together and in blending the cultures together. The second important factor of the increasement is the trade and business, which I talked and which I discussed in my literature review also, that the inspiration for the trade and business and the modern trade is not confined to some specific culture bound people. Now Pathan, they do not want to do only business with the Pathan people. They want to go all around. Okay? So, to remove this gap, many people started learning national and international languages. Also, let me tell you that most of the business people belong from the Pashtun community. They started learning Chinese language also just to do the business and trade. So, they are actually adaptive and flexible now. The intercultural mixing and cultural mixing is also very much thing. Now I am over here in Bhavalpur. I just told to my friend that please take me to the cultural shop of Bhavalpur, tell me about the cultural food of Bhavalpur. So people are also trying to get culturally mixed also. They are being aware, they are, they want to get interacted now. They don't want to create more gap actually. The location also, like as I just given you the example of my city, Islamabad, which becomes a metropolitan actually, where people from all around the country, they come, they interact, they take the education, they live together. Of course, this is also one of the reasons to make the people blend together, and the speech communities, they are getting into the one platform, and their cultural behavior, emotional are getting, you can say, equalizing and blended. Due to this globalization, which I will not give much talk on it, just to tell you that the media is very much important. Media is very much important, especially this mobile phone where we can have this, the AI, artificial intelligence has spread it all around the world. The languages become merged into a digital communication, You must have heard about the emojis and emoticons. Now you don't want to write lines and lines, you just send one emoji to express your emotion. So this has also blended the culture actually. And newspaper, although it's not very much in, but the blogs and all the articles, the research papers and all this is another factor to blend the cultures together. So, now coming toward the conclusion. Yes. Now, in the light of this, all the discussion I made, especially in perspective of the research, I would say the majority of the respondents among Pathans and Punjabis showed similar emotional behavior. However, Pathans still face some of the problems in gender discrimination in domestic context, in which I believe is diminishing day by day. But the factors, education, location, intercultural mixing, cultural mixing, are directly related to the similarity in the behavior of the Pathans and Pashtuns, and in opposite to the stereotype regarding Pathans, they showed very sensible responses emotionally now. So instead of teaching children with regional languages, this is also one of the dilemma that we want our children also, that they could speak English and Urdu, not our regional language, which I do not favor, but still this is our choice, being a mother, that our student and our children, they could speak very well language, English language, Urdu language in a well way, because they have to communicate more for this language actually. So the movies, news channels are national, international, making again a very important factor. So these are the important factors which are working behind, which are laying behind in blending, in mixing the different speech communities together and culture integration together. So this is all from my side. If you have any questions or if you want to comment, you can. These are my references. Some of the references. So if anybody would like to give a comment or any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khan. This talk was shared by Dr. Hari Prakash. I request him to share comments, please.
Dr. Khan, thank you so much for your interesting and fascinating talk on interculturalization. And as you might know, as students of linguistics, language and culture, as Dr. Khan emphasized, inseparable. Whenever we speak of language, actually somehow related to the culture, and the reason culture actually informs the way we behave, our practices that we behave, seeing the data. The way we actually react to situations, mostly informed by our culture, but culture is like a superordinate concept, like a comprehensive term. There are lots of other drivers of culture. One of them is religion, for example. It determines the way you can address, sometimes the way you get dressed, the way you behave, especially in relation to your relation with the opposite sex. This is quite different. But I guess I find the term quite important in terms of intercultural awareness. Especially we also highlight that now there is this demand from the parent side that students learn modern languages, primary language, Western languages, rather than these local languages. But how within the country, especially a country like Pakistan, which is quite linguistically rich with local regional languages. So these are also important because within the country you're communicating with your own ethnic coalitions from different parts of Pakistan with different maybe cultural norms and values, but we have to find a middle ground for an effective healthy communication. And another point, culture also involves these non-verbal elements. Sometimes we ignore these actual part in our teaching in the classroom. The way, my gestures, my posture, head gestures, these are also important elements. Especially, let me give you an example like proxemics. I don't know whether the students know the term. How close you can get to somebody while speaking. In Western countries, they value their personal space. But here, Dr. Rez just grabs me so that I cannot breathe in and out. This is quite common. Why between us? Especially hugging each other between the same sex. But this is not the case that you will actually see in, let's say, Western country. But you learn how to behave appropriately, how, again, the person, as Dr. Khan highlighted, the media, exposure, movies, TV series, by raising our intercultural awareness. So I guess the future trend, especially in terms of language teaching, not just for English language teaching, because we have local speakers like Punjab, they should also learn to act appropriately among the cultural norms of the interlocutors, of the speaking partners. This way we're going to have, I guess, a healthy communication, and we'll understand each other, and we'll learn to respect the diversity, as again in line with the conference thing. So this is all from me, and thank you, Dr. Khan, because of this taking talk, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next guest speaker is Dr. Mahbub Ahmad. He is Assistant Registrar in Bonn High Court. He earned his PhD in Linguistics under the guidance supervision of Professor Dr. Muhammad. Recently, I invite Dr. Mahbub for his talk. This talk will be shared by Dr. Rukaiza Khan.
First of all, my earliest congratulations to Dr. Ryan and Professor Munawari for such a nice and wonderful conference, and with guests and all my teachers and dear students. Well, the topic and the time given to me, both are complicated, but I try my best to do justice to the topic. Let me start. The study I'm going to talk about is text analysis. That was part of my MPhil studies. The topic of study is deconstructionism has and socials signifier and signifier. Is there any significant relation between signifier and signifier? Deconstructing the relation between signifier and signifier, the purpose of the study of various concepts. Let me illustrate this particular topic. Topic in quantitative or qualitative research studies is equally important because you have to define the variables in quantitative study and you have to set the things in your qualitative study. So in both the research paradigm, topic is important. How from broad area of study you narrow down a topic, that is a particular task for a research scholar, whether of the MPhil studies or the PhD studies. So deconstructing a relation between signifier and signifier, if you see this topic closely, how the topic has been narrowed down. On the one hand, you will see the framework given by Derrida. On the other hand, you will see the structuralism given by Saussure. And the third point that is important in the topic, that is the corpus selected for the study, that was the reluctant fundamentalist novel written by Mohsin Hamid, Pakistani English novel. So how the variation of meanings took place in the texts. So let's move ahead. How the research problem has been defined and stated in this qualitative study, which was a text analysis actually, is Derrida's deconstructionism significantly establishing any stable meaning operating between an arbitrary bond of signifier and signifier. We see in our daily life how meanings created in our life, and in textual meanings we see repetition of meaning and variation of meaning from one context to another, what we say, what we mean, and what we mean, what we don't say. So this is the dichotomy, and this is the thread of the study that is going on in this study. And let's see the research objectives. I already have told you that research problem and research objective both are important in qualitative or quantitative studies. So research objectives were three only: to diagnose signifiers from the selected textual example taken from the reluctant fundamentalists. The second objective was to explore the bond between signifier and signifier. Here we see the social framework given for the linguistic analysis. And the third objective was to synthesize the phenomena of variation in meaning. So let's see how the literature has been embedded for the study. First of all, let me go for the social structuralism. We have to see the levels of sign. The sign words are things which are named by associating the concept with a sound unit. That is a mark on paper, gestures, posters, sensations, mental images, concepts, ideas, fingerprints, graphs, diagrams, computer program, which is a predictor of thought referring to some object. We see in our daily life that words themselves have no meaning. When we push them, when we move them, when we put them into action by giving an energy or force by the speaker and perceived by the listener, then meaning emerges from this interaction. So, ordinary pre-Socratic Greek philosopher and Roman writers like Cicero and Quintilian employed sign. Every word is a sign, first of all.
In English language, all words are signs and words are signifiers. This is the thing to be appreciated in this textual analysis. Employed sign to mean evidence. Sign is an evidence, proof or symptom of what is temporarily hidden from you. For instance, smoke is a sign of fire. Clouds are a sign of impending storm. Blood complexion is a sign of fever. For hypocrites, a grief position, a serious one, is the sign of death. A woman being milk is a sign of being a child. Fever is a sign of illness. Sweating is a sign of pores on the skin. So, what is symbol and signal? In structural linguistics, symbol having one's hand raised is a sign which is interpreted variously as a symbol of farewell, dismissal, or a set in motion play of sign using an analogy of a sheet of paper whose one side is sound and the other side is thought. Yes, ma'am. But not a combination of sound and thought produces a form, but not a substance. Sound of words is the signifier and thought is signifier. A sign is composition of signifier and signifier. Let's see the signal. Honeybees pass information to their nest mat by dancing source of food. It's a signal. Signifier and signifier. Shorten the basis concept and sound inward. For signifier and signifier, having two bases of the sign. Signifier is sound structure, sign linguistics, and the signifier is meaning complex, which is the subject of semantics. We may speak of a word, a sentence, a paragraph, a book, or a whole culture as sign. Whole mechanism of language depends upon visual and auditory signifier. Stoics historically issued an example of smoke as sign of fire. Augustine demonstrates link between natural science and evidential science. Occam pays deep service to the evidential science of the classical period by giving traditional examples. Hobbes talks about public and private science. These are of the view that science are vague evidence of objects. Idealists like Berkeley and Hume confess that we don't perceive objects but only sensations. So mutability and arbitrariness as both concepts are important here. Understand the nature of language is precisely defined by this function. There are compound words based on the meaning of their component parts. And let me again point out this study was qualitative. Actually, it was a text analysis of the reluctant fundamentalists, novel written by Mohsin Hamid. So, both the frameworks were applied deconstructionism, how the meaning education carries on in text analysis, and how social structuralism is applicable in this study. So, deconstruction is a framework given by Derrida. The task of deconstruction is to identify the connection between text and meaning. So, being as a student of English literature and linguistics, we need to understand the relationship between text and meaning. Where are the meaning, either in the mind of the speaker, or in the text, or in the context, and how meanings are changed from one context to another context. These are the topics and areas which were explored in this study. Derrida refers to self-sufficient and non-backward meaning, meaning metaphysical presence of a sign. One of the most important slogan given. So that was the slogan in Derrida's deconstructionism. So meaning proliferation. Take the concept of meaning proliferation arises when we go from this Derrida's deconstructionism what is inside the text and what is outside the text can itself be reconstructed. Reconstruction opens the text to conditions of their production and context in a very broad sense. How the text has been composed by the writer and how it has been put for evaluation and examination. Deconstruction has attacked the assumption and structure of meaning. Meanings are not stable in a text. They are fluid and all the time change from one context to another context. Verification has been to show that text, situation, tradition, societies, beliefs, practices don't have definable meaning. Structuralism, there is nothing outside the structure. One is related to other science. For example, being is a binary opposition of nothingness. If we want to understand the meaning of word, we have to go for binary opposition. If we want to understand the meaning of goodness, we have to look the binary opposition, that is bad, good and bad opposition. So let's see how the data has been analyzed in this qualitative textual study. I would like to give one example. Don't be frightened by my beard. This is one of the sparkling textual lines given from the Lecture Fundamentals, Muslim Ahmed, page number 1, 2007. I again repeat, don't be frightened by my beard. Let's apply both the theoretical framework on this chosen text for the qualitative study. When the text was deconstructed, the signifier beard is from the right text, signifies in one way fashion, terrorist and wise. We have three signifiers for one signifier, beard. It also signifies fashion, it also signifies terrorist, it also signifies wise. Its binding opposite is beardless. Now, how the meaning emerged from this text, from this pagan text? For instance, Chengiz is the main character of the novel, Lecture Fundamentals, and the narrator of the novel. Chengiz' beard has frightened a matron because he seems to be a terrorist. Now, go for the second illustration. This type of beard can be a fashion in Turkey. Third instance, in this painting, Aristotle is looking wise in beard. You see the three contexts: wise in beard, fashion in Turkey, terrorist in beard. So we have the one signifier. I have chosen one signifier from the text, that is beard. And when it was put into three different sentences and how meaning changed from one context to another context, and this was the core findings and explorations and understandings of the study. And what is the outcome of this textual analysis? Outcome of this textual analysis is analyzing the text with reference to variation in meaning between signifier and signifier surface. The scope for text turning into teaching costs by developing content specification charts. A deep analysis of content linking with learner demands emerge, keeping in mind the level of learner. Content specification charts manifesting skill development programs were likely to be explored in future. So, what is the future scope? The proliferation of meaning and how meaning are not stable and meaning are fluid and rotating all the time. This can be taken as a future endeavor both in qualitative and quantitative study. And the last but not the least conclusion of the study was that meanings are not centered in a text. They are changeable, fluid and flexible and change from one context to another. Thank you very much.
Dr. This was portrayed by Dr. Nikasa Khan. I request her to please share her comments.
You have taken two different dimensions. One is the corporate study, that is one of the modern tool of language compilation and used in research very much. And they university doing a lot of great work there. They have a journal also, a lot of corpus as well. And all around the world, this is the age and time where the corpus studies are used a lot. And very, in a very practical way, you have associated with a very traditional and the foundational theory given by the Third this is shore of signifier and signifier. So here you have referred to Hobbes and Occam, and then we talked about the Derrida as well, who's of the thing that there is no nothing outside the text, and which is being countered by you because the way you have practically implemented in a contextual way. You have given the example of where that how much different meaning it is referring to in a contextual way. So this is actually a beautification of the research, that when you do it, you come across with different paradigms and you are just taking the former things in order to bring the new dimension of the research. So this is I really like the way to apply the corpus studies, which is one of my very likable for the research studies, and the way you apply for the linguistic theory, which is actually very much considered as a very theoretical framework, but you have applied in a very practical and critical way, related and associated by the contextual situation. That was quite interesting. So thank you very much. It was very good.
Thank you so much. Our next guest speaker is Dr. Amina Bint Abdul Qadir. She is serving as senior lecturer and researcher in the Department of Arts and English Language. She served as member of the Scientific Committee, Department of Arts and English Language. Dr. Amina has a great experience as academic paper reviewer and online trainer in designing and delivering an academic writing course. She also worked as project coordinator in global exchange Algeria, Indonesia, leading the Algerian team planning, organizing and delivering online sessions and creating materials. She will deliver a talk on considering the implementation of English as a medium of instruction in the Algerian higher education between ambition and breadth. She has joined us online and her talk will be shared by Dr. Ali Karkash.
Hello, shall I start?
Yes, please.
So, hi everyone. I suppose it's the afternoon in Pakistan, it's the morning in Algeria. So, I'm joining you from Constantine, Algeria today to talk about the project of the Ministry of Higher Education, which is considering the implementation or starting the implementation of English as instruction in higher education. So my title is Between Ambitions and Risks, because English is a new language in the multilingual Algeria. So let's first discover the multilingual Algeria before we move on and talk about English as medium of instruction. So this is my outline. So I'm talking about languages in the context of Algeria, and then talk about English as a recognized language, and then other international languages, and talking about the projects and see what ambitions and risks on board. This will be my drawing from the experiences of Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and other countries with mind. So to start with the multilingualism in Algeria, I need to talk about Islam. We talk about Algeria not as a country, but as a region. It belongs to the Mediterranean region, so we have the highlands, where it's weather, agriculture, trade, and even the land north of that region. And then we talk about the setting of the region, mainly Roman, Byzantine, Greek, Egyptian. When Islam came, it came as a package, religion and the language, and the native inhabitants in Algeria were Amazigh, and they have their own culture, their own identity, and their own language, which is called Tamazight. So when Islam came, it kind of imposes on the native inhabitants either. This created resistance from Amazigh people who considered Arabic, not Islam. They embraced Islam, but Arabic for them was a threat to the Tamadic language, which is indigenous language. So there were resistance from them. And then came of course, the Ottomans. I even tried to spread the Ottoman language. But unlike the Ottomans, the French colonization imposed their language, their culture, their religion on Algerians. But there were really massive resistance by Algerians with regards to the French acculturation policy, which is to require Algerian people from their Algerian identity. And this project of the acculturation was, or has another name, which is considered Algeria as a French department, or as they call it, l'Algérie française, the French Algeria. So there were French language in education, administration, media, and there was also literacy. So we have here Zaharoui, who is a very famous figure in the Algerian politics, is narrating her story about being educated in the French schools. So she said, when I started my 6th grade in 1947, we were 4 indigenous, that means they were 4 Algerians only. Out of 2,000 pupils who were in the house from them. 2 per 1,000, that is 0.2%. I'm spending 7 years in this high school, and during all my schooling, we never exceeded 8 indigenous pupils. So this number, this very small number of the Algerian people going to the French school is because of the resistance of the Algerian people. They were resisting all the French policy, French education, anything that comes from France was very resistant. So that created illiteracy, and as a response from the Algerian people to hold their identity, they started creating Quranic schools to maintain Arabic as a language, Islam as a religion, and Algerianity as a national identity. But I have to note here that Quranic schools were not welcome at all by the French authorities, and anyone going to those schools or founding those schools were subject to arrest. After colonization, we had a revolution in 1954, and then we got our independence in 1962. That post-independence era witnessed a great change in Algerian policy. One of them is reinforcing the belongingness of Algeria to the Arab world, which means we insisted on our Arabic language, and we adhered to nationalistic liberation movements at the time, which is one nation, one language, one culture. Adopted Arabic as a language of instruction, but that created a problem for the authorities because we had only 3% of Algerians who were literate in Algerian literary Arabic. So here we are not well equipped really to have our own education, to start eradicating illiteracy. So what the authorities did, they called for the assistance of Arab teachers from Syria, Palestine, Egypt, Iraq, Lebanon, and so on. So we needed them in this mission of, we call it the Arabization of the Algerian people. Because most of our kids at that time, they were Francophones. They speak only French because they got their education in French schools. That Arabization, it is on one side. On the other side, we had French as a medium of instruction for technical and scientific disciplines. This is when we started our universities. Our universities started in the 60s after the independence. And then we had that perception or that ideology that French didn't teach. Remember that we had only very few people who went to French schools, which means others were illiterate, or they only went to Quranic schools to get the basics, mathematics, Arabic, and Quran, and that's it. But for those who had really proper education, they had it in French schools. So that flag, that prestige, was attributed to French just because it is a sign that this person is a intellectual. And Tamazight, which is the language of the inhabitants, or by some minorities in specific regions. So when we say specific regions, so those regions are mountainous, which means they kind of separate geographically. So even if we don't put boundaries, that's like the nature of the geography of those regions impose that kind of separation. So Tamazight is not really common when you walk in streets in other cities, but only in the regions of those minorities. And this created hegemony and identity tensions amongst the proponents of the Francophone in Algeria, those who like to keep French in Algerian schools. And then the official recognition and promotion of Tamazight, it came as a response to the Black and Berber Springs, and these were really bloody events. So there were victims because the Tamazight people claimed certain official status of their identity and their language. And nationalistic counter Arabization or Arabized or Algeria, which is the Black Decade. The Black Decade started in late 80s and ended in late 90s. And this is also one of the Black events that Algeria really witnessed. And this one really had an echo to those who were calling for the nationalistic agenda in Algeria and to Arabize all the people in it. And also those who resisted French. But still, even though all nationalism wasn't still an icon in Algeria because of the settlers and colonizers who brought with their languages, cultures, and faiths. If you look at the dialect of Algerians, it's a mixture of many languages: Italian, Spanish, French, Turkish, Tamazight, and Arabic. So people, they say it's Algerian Arabic, and others they say it's not Arabic, and it's true, it's not purely Arabic, even the grammar we have our grammar. Nevertheless, the downside of multilingualism in Nigeria is the socio-linguistic hegemonies, because the roles attributed to the languages spoken in Nigeria or that exist in Nigeria are not really are not equal. So there is no equity in these roles. So for the Black Decade, we thought that, okay, there is an urgent need for a foreign language that is not locally associated with post-colonial trauma and ideologies. So here, when we talk about the Black Decade, as I said, late 80s, late 90s, so here globalization is already there in the world. So they wanted something else. We don't want French because it reminds us of all the crimes of French colonization. So they started thinking of English. It was a tentative escape, given its global status and relative dissociation from the national context. So it's not, we don't have any meaning attributed to English. And for us, it's just an international language. It's not linked to colonization for us. I mean, the context of Algeria only. Okay? So in Algeria, it's not related to any colonial trauma or ideologies. For us, it's just a language of science, technology, that is and has a global status. So when thinking about this project of improving English in primary school was failed because it was merely political, was during the Black decade where people trying to survive, and also because Algeria wasn't really well equipped with people who were qualified to teach English in primary schools. However, last summer, in 2022, in July, the President and the Majid in a press interview said that we need English. He said French is a sport of war. It means we can still keep French as a language, but English is an international language. And this is just to say that English is a priority now in actual society and education. And that was through this interview that he declared that starting from September 2022, English will be taught in primary schools. There were some concerns with regards to this policy. The first one is the preparedness of the teachers assigned to fulfill this mission. And the other concern is the process of hiring and material writing, because it was a very short schedule. Remember what I said, July 2022, and then September 2022, so it's less than 2 months. And to prepare for the materials, to start the process of hiring, so it wasn't really, there wasn't much attention attributed to the quality of teachers or the preparedness of those teachers and the quality of the materials that are going to be used in primary schools to teach English. So this is one of the parents who shared his concerns with regards to this policy. He said, I'm the father of 2 children studying in primary school. Teaching English in primary school is sensible. We should prepare for it because most parents of Algerian students are not ready to teach English to their children in primary school. It requires minutes for the students to join the classes and learn the language properly. And we here in Algeria are the needs. So here he raised another problem, which is most of the parents do not speak English, they don't know English. So they know in some countries they know Arabic, but they don't know English. So he said, how can we expect from these parents to assist us in this project and make teaching English in primary school successful? Then after this move of using English as an international language in primary schools, that came another project which is the introduction of English for instruction in higher education. So the government is setting a series of measures as it implements the period of English and instruction in higher education. And universities are called to deploy all its facilities and staff in order to design and set up a program to teach the academic staff English. So here when we talk about the facilities, we are talking here for the Center of Intensive Teaching of Languages, which is a private center in all Algerian state universities, and the Department of English. So the ministry is expecting teachers to join this center or to, ask the students in the English department in order to have a good level of a good proficiency of English so that they will be able to use it as such. However, what is not really clear here is the roadmap. So this is the career of the Ministry of Higher Education, setting out some very blurry mechanisms about how to apply it, because universities, they don't have the same academic staff. They don't all have the department of English, and the centers they don't have the same capacity. So they are not going to cater for the same number of university teachers. Here what is not clear is a roadmap. How are we going to proceed with this project, with this implementing English instruction? And then what are the short and long-term prospects? For the short term, we are only ones. We are going to use it either in instruction, then what? We don't know. Either are we moving towards internationalizing Algerian universities? Are we going to make them private because a lot of them a state university, but we have only one private university. So we don't know yet what are the prospects. And then what obstacles can we face when implementing Yama in a context that is very multilingual and that is used to resist change? Here, the following one is our concerns. The ministry heard from us our concerns. It didn't, and it hasn't. Now, to just talk about these, I'm drawing on examples from Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and some other countries. So in Pakistan, for instance, I have this from 2017. He said, in order to inform the broad-based and responsive language and education policy, we need new studies to provide a more comprehensive analysis of language attitudes and perceptions in the country. The current year nationalism with one culture. And then how are we going to use English? How are we going to use English? And how are we going to be successful in implementing human rights? And then he said, my book continues, that the current human policies in English do not enable all students in higher education and might actually perpetuate the social class violations in the society. We are talking about teachers, not here. What about students? There is nothing, and the only policy is in primary school, so we need at least, at least 10 years to have this generation in university. So the generations that are now studying, they have only English as a foreign language, they study twice a week, which is not enough. It means 2 hours a week. Enough really to have a good proficiency to use in admin and instruction. And then this is from how she said the current situation of education in the online context is far from satisfactory despite the scheduled efforts and particularly the challenges of 21st century education. So despite that, English in Pakistan is more popular than English in Nigeria, but we still find out that the EMI policy is not that satisfactory in Pakistan. So how is it going to be in Nigeria? Then here about Saudi Arabia, Saudi government needs to establish a flexible language policy and establish a new strategy for protecting the Arabic language and having English as language of communication for international levels of communication. So last Thursday, so exactly a week ago, I organized a survey about this project of implementing English as a curriculum instruction. And half of the survey was devoted for teachers, university teachers of all disciplines, to discuss their concerns, how they see the study through the research and reform. So most of them, they were like, we are not relevant to have only English as a curriculum instruction. We need at least 2. Why not we use 2 forms? One that is using French in scientific and technical disciplines, and another one that is using English as a medium of instruction in technical and scientific disciplines. And this reaction or this perception is built on the fact that students are not well equipped in French, but they are used to have that their French, to use French as a medium of instruction, and they used to have to read materials in French, to discuss them in French, to read writing in French, but going directly to English and without really giving some chances to people who are struggling with English and they still have the asset of French, for them it's very risky. Others, they were like,